Well, I'm now joined by political analysts Asanda, Ngoasheng and Sandile, Swana to look at some of the political implications of today's court ruling. Let me start with you, Asanda, if I may. I mean, we are yet to hear from the Speaker or her advisor, which will happen a little later on the show. But do you think that she may now regret having gone to court?
I don't know if she'll necessarily regret, because I think part of what the court case was about delaying the execution of justice. And she has gotten, potentially one final weekend before she's arrested and potentially taken to jail. And so she has gotten extra few days, which is, the whole point of going to court. But for me, my biggest concern is that while, one of the comments made is that this is a right that exists for all South Africans to be able to go to court and challenge these things, it's actually a right that is available to all South Africans, but it's a right that is not accessible to all South Africans because it requires you to be able to afford a lawyer and various other things which, she has in a way that a lot of South Africans don't have. I mean, imagine, the many, many millions of South Africans who have been arrested without the opportunity or possibility of taking their matter to court to be heard before it's heard in the actual court case. I find the whole thing quite interesting in that while it is legal, my question is more around, is it ethical and moral for somebody who is being accused of corruption to keep delaying the opportunity which the court presents, which is to explain themselves and to put their case forward?
Well, Mr. Swana, I mean, the NPA didn't take kindly to her move, even though she was, the Speaker was, as Asanda was saying, perfectly entitled. To it. But I was listening to the use of words like unprecedented, unnecessary. Do you think she will now be afforded, now as the NPA will now afford her the courtesies that it was prepared to offer her before?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your viewers. The NPA will not change its stance. The idea of going to catch somebody and put them in the back of a van, it's a last resort. They had been asking her lawyer to bring her to the police station for processing so that they can enroll the matter. All of us go through that process, and it is something that as South Africans we should be proud of, because that's what our constitution affords us. That you can be invited there, you fingerprinted, all documents are taken in, your state of health is checked, everything is checked, and then you are taken to court. It's a right that we've won as part of the democracy, and the Speaker should be demonstrating that commitment to this democracy rather than impeding the process. She should be assisting the process as she claimed to want to do before.
Interestingly, Asanda, Judge Portrell, did say that what the Speaker was seeking was to open the floodgates, was going to open the floodgates for suspects to interdict their arrests on the basis that they were unlawful and the cases against them were weak.
Yeah, this is exactly why I said what I said, because essentially what you're doing now is opening literally the floodgates for any and all people who need to be arrested to not be arrested. And as I said earlier, I think one of the biggest issues we have is also we need to start asking the question around who is allowed to be given, who is given the opportunity to be taken by their lawyer and to hand themselves over, and who is immediately arrested upon sight. Because if you look at who gets this opportunity, you will see that the average South African does not have that opportunity. The average South African, when they commit a crime, finds themselves very quickly behind bars. There are very few cases where people are given this opportunity. And you'll see even, for example, Marcus Jooste got this opportunity as well, and he chose, to take his own life instead. And so what we're seeing is that public officials or those who have money and access to and the means to power and access to lawyers who cost a lot of money are able to exercise this opportunity that is technically available to all, but is only really ever exercised in the cases of those who are in power. And I want to also, highlight one other thing which really concerns me, which is that as the Speaker of Parliament, this person has a much higher bar morally that they should be following than the average person or even the average politician, because they are literally sitting at the head of the literal house that is supposed to create these rules which are supposed to ensure that the Constitution is followed to the letter, also that are supposed to ensure that South Africans are able to exercise and engage in their equality before the law and before all other institutions. And so to take such a huge precedent step that she knows and her lawyers know that it means criminals of other nature are going to take and are going to ensure that they delay justice and are going to ensure that victims will see another weekend, another week before they see the person who has wronged them under arrest. And I think that, as a country, we need to urgently establish a corruption judicial system, so that we can take and hold these cases that are specifically around corruption quite quickly through the system without having to have these multiple delays. And I also think it's quite arrogant to try to create a situation where, she is now determining when she can appear based on her lawyer's ability to be available, when the average South African, once again, doesn't have this right. If you are arrested at a roadblock on a Friday, you have to wait until Monday. And if your lawyer is not available on Monday, you have to find another lawyer. You don't have the opportunity to say, oh, I'm sorry, guys, please, can you wait for my lawyer? They're busy away on holiday. They'll only be back in a week. So why is it that we continue to allow those who hold power to create new systems and ways of executing justice that are not for the benefit of all South Africans? And I think this is what this court case brings up, and that's why I keep highlighting that while it is legal, is it moral, is it ethical, and is it fair and just? And this is, I think, unfortunate for her, one of the things that she hasn't considered is that she could potentially be leading us towards a change or a rethink of these laws in the same way that Jacob Zuma made us rethink our very constitution and the presidential laws.
Sandile, Swana, on the back of everything that Asanda just said, do you think that this is one of those cases, or rather how the Speaker handled this matter has done further damage to integrity of the political system, ethics and related issues?
Absolutely. I think that the intellectuals of South Africa, the intelligentsia, foresaw this outcome. They also knew before today that it was a mistake from the beginning to appoint Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula as the Speaker, which is the head of the legislature, on a level plane with the state president and the Chief Justice. So she is a symbol of the integrity of South Africa in terms of oversight. But she came into the office with Ramaphosa knowing very well that while she was Minister of Defense, she was using the Air Force airplanes as a private taxi for either her comrades or smuggling people into the country and all such mischief. And at some stage she was even fined. So a person of that nature, or with those proclivities, if we have to put it that way, does not qualify morally, doesn't have the moral competence to occupy an office that requires probity and the duty of checking over the president and the presidents as well as the cabinet itself that they are doing their job properly. So a person like that who already has skeletons and all kinds of baggage was not suited from the start. So she has tarnished the Republic of South Africa as a whole and our constitutional order through her conduct over time, not just today.
Well, I mean, the DA is obviously going ahead with the motion. One is not sure about the prospects of that motion, given the sheer numbers that the ANC has in Parliament. But what do you think is going to happen, Asanda?
I think, it's going to be interesting to see how the ANC responds to this one, because on the one hand, if, we are about just over a month before elections, if they want to be seen to be really cleaning up, then they should be voting with the DA, unfortunately, to remove her. However, if they want to show themselves to continue to be loyal to their members, then they are likely, unfortunately, I believe this is what's going to happen, they are likely to defend her. And this is not going to be taken lightly and is not going to play out well for them in terms of the public and the fact that South Africans are really beyond exhausted by corruption and the many ways in which the African National Congress continues to support, to protect, and to delay justice when it comes to its own members. And I think, for me, they should be learning a lesson from how much they protected Jacob Zuma and how he has now turned against them, and be using that as a lesson to say we cannot protect people at all means, at all costs, because eventually it has a cost on us when it comes to the vote, because South Africans do not want to find themselves being governed by people who don't even understand the basics of morality and ethics, because if the speaker understood the basics of morality and authority, she would not have taken this act, despite it being legally available to her.
Well, Asanda, Swana, last word from you. The ANC has issued a statement saying they have noted the judgment to strike the matter between the NPA and the Speaker of the National Assembly, Comrade Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula, from the court roll. The ANC is committed to respecting the laws of the country and allowing the justice process to take its course. As such, the ANC will enforce its integrity and step aside policies to preserve the integrity of the movement. Full stop. That's as short or as long as the statement goes. Your thoughts?
Yes. They are, first of all, that process, they are caught up in elections now as to whether they'll get an urgent date to hear this thing in the Integrity Commission and invite her for submissions, how they get the dates in 6 or whatever number of weeks are remaining. It's anybody's guess. And I anticipated that they will say they'll allow the law to take its course, as if they've got a choice not to. They don't have a choice. They have to allow the law to take its course. So this is a meaningless statement, and I must add, now that the matter has arisen, that it has been my view over the longest time, and it remains my view, that what the Integrity Commission of the ANC lacks is integrity itself, and it lacks consistency. So they might as well be part of protecting Nosiviwe Mapisa-Nqakula themselves.
Sandile, Swana, Asanda, Ngoasheng, thanks to both of you for giving us your time. We will, of course, be hearing in the next hour from the Speaker's advisor. He'll be speaking to us a little later on.